let's start our first news. Ian Garry could be heading into UFC 330 with a very confident team behind him, and his coach Diego Lima believes he has the tools to shock Islam Makhachev. In a recent interview with Shogun, Lima explained why he thinks Ian is capable of stopping Islam before the final bell. He pointed out that while JDM is an excellent boxer, Ian is a much more complete fighter with skills across boxing, kicking, takedowns, and grappling. Lima also highlighted one major difference this time around: preparation. Ian has previously accepted fights on extremely short notice. Against Prats, he reportedly had only 2 weeks to prepare, while the Rakhmonov matchup came together with roughly 20 days of training time. This time, however, things are completely different. Ian has reportedly had around 2 months to specifically prepare for Islam, giving him a full training camp to study the former lightweight champion and build a strategy around his strengths. Lima refused to predict exactly which round the fight could end in, but he made one bold claim: he does not believe Islam will make it to the 5th round. According to his coach, Ian has the size, versatility, and striking ability to land a shot that Islam will genuinely feel. And if that happens, Lima believes Islam could lose his composure and find himself in serious trouble. Of course, that is a big prediction, especially against a fighter as accomplished as Islam. But Ian Garry now has something he has rarely had before: a full camp specifically designed for one opponent. And if his coach is right, UFC 330 could become the biggest test of Islam's career. Move on to another news. Conor is once again at the center of a major discussion, but this time, the questions are coming from a sports medicine doctor who has been closely following his injury. Brian Suter recently reviewed the training videos Conor has shared during his recovery and admitted that some things about the reported ACL injury do not appear to match what he would normally expect to see so soon after a serious injury. To be clear, Suter did not directly accuse Conor of faking anything. Instead, he said the timeline and the physical abilities Conor has displayed have left him with some serious questions. The doctor pointed to several videos showing Conor using a rowing machine, performing knee extensions, and moving through a surprisingly deep range of motion. He also noted that Conor's quad activation appeared strong. His movement looked relatively balanced, and there seemed to be very little visible swelling. According to Suter, the original injury mechanism could still be consistent with an ACL or meniscus injury. However, he explained that he initially wondered whether the meniscus might have been the primary issue, because the footage did not show some of the movement patterns commonly associated with a complete ACL tear. What really caught his attention was how quickly Conor appeared capable of putting significant effort through the injured leg. Suter essentially suggested that either Conor has recovered at an unusually fast rate, or that there may be more details about the injury and treatment timeline that the public simply does not know. Importantly, he still believes there is a real injury. His point is that the available footage does not necessarily tell the complete story. For now, Conor's recovery continues to raise eyebrows, especially as fans wait for clearer information about when he could realistically return to competition. Move on to another news. Sean Strickland has finally given fans an update on his health, and his latest comments have also teased a potential rematch with Khamzat. The middleweight division has been waiting for clarity on what comes next. Khamzat wants another opportunity against Strickland after their recent fight, while Du Plessis is also pushing for a title opportunity following his victory over Kamaru Usman. Then there's Nassourdine Imavov, who has already found himself waiting on the sidelines while the title picture develops. After previously being passed over while the Khamzat and Strickland situation played out, Imavov could potentially be forced to wait even longer unless he decides to accept another matchup. But now, Strickland has provided an important update. In a recent post, Strickland addressed the questions surrounding his return and revealed that his shoulder is continuing to recover. He said his shoulder is getting stronger, but he still needs a little more time before he's ready to compete again. That alone would have been significant, but Strickland also appeared to point directly toward Khamzat when discussing his next opponent. Strickland referenced Khamzat's recent comments and responded with his usual trash-talking style, even joking about teaching him how to cut weight. That immediately adds another layer to the middleweight title situation. If Strickland is healthy enough to return soon, a rematch with Khamzat could become one of the most interesting options available. But the UFC still has several pieces to move around before the division becomes completely clear. Du Plessis is coming off a victory and wants his opportunity. Imavov is waiting for his chance after being overlooked previously, and Khamzat remains determined to get another fight with Strickland. Meanwhile, Strickland's latest update suggests that his return is getting closer, even though he isn't quite ready yet. The biggest question now is timing. His shoulder needs more recovery, but once he receives the green light, the middleweight division could move very quickly. And judging by Strickland's latest comments, Khamzat may already be at the top of his list. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev is receiving some serious praise from Ian Garry's coach ahead of their highly anticipated welterweight matchup. While Diego Lima obviously believes in his own fighter, he had nothing negative to say about Islam. In fact, he admitted that he was genuinely impressed by the way Islam has adapted since moving up to welterweight. According to Lima, Islam is a special fighter, and his biggest adjustment has been the way he approaches fights at the heavier weight. At lightweight, Islam was willing to take more risks and accept more exchanges. He could absorb strikes while looking for opportunities to control the fight and eventually impose his grappling. But moving up to welterweight has apparently changed that approach. Lima pointed specifically to Islam's welterweight debut against JDM. Over the course of more than 25 minutes, Islam was able to control the fight while taking very little damage. That performance stood out to Lima because Islam appeared much more calculated and defensively responsible than he had been earlier in his career. Instead of constantly taking unnecessary risks, Islam seemed comfortable dictating the pace, managing distance, and choosing exactly when to engage. For Lima, that is a major sign of development. The physical differences at welterweight are obvious. Fighters are naturally bigger, stronger, and capable of generating more power. Taking unnecessary punishment against opponents at this weight can become extremely dangerous. Islam appears to understand that, and that could make the upcoming matchup with Ian Garry even more difficult. Lima clearly understands the skill set that Islam brings into the cage. He knows how dangerous Islam can be with his wrestling, grappling, control, and increasingly well-rounded striking. But at the same time, Lima has complete belief in his own fighter. Ian has been preparing specifically for this challenge, and his team believes his size, striking ability, movement, and versatility can create problems for Islam. That sets up a fascinating clash of styles. On one side, you have an elite former lightweight champion who has already shown that he can adapt to the physical demands of welterweight. On the other, you have a large, athletic contender entering the matchup with a full training camp and plenty of confidence. Islam is receiving praise from his opponent's camp, but once the cage door closes, respect will disappear, and the competition will begin. Move on to another news. Georges St-Pierre has given his prediction for the highly anticipated UFC 330 matchup between Islam Makhachev and Ian Garry, and his analysis strongly favors Islam based on the styles involved. GSP believes Ian has the skills to make this fight competitive, especially when the fight remains standing. He sees Ian as a dangerous striker with the length, movement, and grappling ability to create problems for almost anyone. However, there is one major concern. According to GSP, Ian needs to find a way to keep the fight on the feet. If Islam is able to consistently take the fight to the ground, GSP believes the matchup could quickly shift in Islam's favor. The reason is simple. Islam has multiple ways to win. He can pressure opponents, control them against the cage, take them down, and use his elite grappling to dictate where the fight takes place. That variety gives him more opportunities to find a path to victory. GSP explained that, when looking at the matchup from a purely logical and stylistic perspective, the advantages appear to favor Islam. But that doesn't mean Ian should be counted out. Ian's biggest advantage could be his size and striking range. At welterweight, he is a long and dangerous opponent who can create distance and attack from angles that make it difficult for opponents to close the gap. If Ian can maintain that distance and force Islam to fight at his preferred range, he could make the fight extremely uncomfortable. GSP also acknowledged that Ian is not simply a striker. He has developed a strong grappling game as well, which could become important if Islam attempts to turn the matchup into a wrestling-heavy battle. Still, GSP described Islam as a stylistic nightmare for virtually anyone. That statement carries significant weight coming from one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. Islam has already established himself as one of the most complete fighters in the sport, and his move to welterweight has only added another layer to his legacy. For Ian, the challenge is finding a way to prevent Islam from controlling the fight. If he can keep the fight standing, his striking and physical advantages could give him a real opportunity. But if Islam gets his hands on Ian and establishes his grappling game, GSP believes the former champion has the edge. The prediction is clear. Islam may have more ways to win, but Ian has the tools to make this a dangerous fight. Move on to another news. The middleweight division is getting even more heated, with Khamzat firing back at Sean Strickland after Strickland appeared to tease a potential rematch. The situation also creates uncertainty around Nassourdine Imavov, who has previously claimed that the UFC told him he would be next in line for a title opportunity. However, as we have seen before, nothing is guaranteed until the UFC officially makes the matchup. After Strickland's latest comments, Imavov also joined the conversation with a short but very confident message, telling Strickland that he would do what he is told and would not escape. Then Khamzat responded directly to Strickland, and his message was much more aggressive. Khamzat accused Strickland of starting the trash talk again and warned him that if they meet inside the cage, Strickland should be ready to face the consequences. He also referenced their previous fight, telling Strickland not to lose his composure the way he allegedly did before. The exchange quickly attracted attention from fans, especially because the relationship between the two fighters seemed to change dramatically after their previous matchup. At one point, the tension appeared to cool down, with both sides seemingly making peace after the fight. Now, however, the trash talk is back, and Khamzat appears determined to build momentum for another potential meeting. One fan even brought up the moment when Khamzat wrapped the championship belt around Strickland after their previous fight. Khamzat responded by making another joke about the situation, suggesting that he felt sorry for Strickland at the time and essentially gave him the belt temporarily. Whether this is genuine bad blood or simply part of the promotion remains unclear. But one thing is obvious: Khamzat is ready to talk if a rematch becomes official. The bigger problem is what happens to Imavov if Strickland gets the fight he wants. If the UFC books another Strickland versus Khamzat matchup, Imavov could once again find himself waiting while the title picture develops around him. For now, the middleweight division remains crowded with potential contenders, unfinished rivalries, and plenty of uncertainty. And with Strickland's health improving, Khamzat pushing for another opportunity, and Imavov demanding his chance, the division could become very interesting once the UFC finally decides which direction to take. Move on to another news. Jake Paul is once again taking shots at Dana White, but this time he is also making a major announcement about his future in MMA. In a recent video, Jake directly addressed Dana, telling him to wake up because the competition is no longer just a dream. He then shifted his focus toward the newly announced partnership between MVP and the PFL. According to Jake, this creates a new combat sports organization designed to bring boxing and MMA together under one platform. He praised the UFC for helping shape modern MMA, but criticized the promotion's treatment of fighters, arguing that athletes can sometimes feel underpaid or sidelined when they disagree with the company. Jake pointed to Tom Aspinall and John Jones as examples, while insisting that putting fighters first has always been a major goal for MVP. But the biggest part of his announcement involved Nate Diaz. Jake claimed that after spending years talking about MMA, he is now officially planning to step into the cage, and he directly called out Nate. He told Diaz to stop avoiding the matchup and suggested that the two need to make the fight happen. Jake also invited fighters from other combat sports organizations to consider joining MVP, promoting it as a major destination for athletes looking for better opportunities. He presented the organization as one of the biggest, highest paying, and most watched platforms in combat sports. The message was clearly aimed at Dana White, with Jake declaring that there is a new sheriff in town. Whether Jake can successfully transition from boxing into MMA remains to be seen, but his latest comments show that he is serious about expanding his combat sports career. And with Nate Diaz already familiar with Jake from their boxing matchup, the possibility of a rematch under MMA rules would immediately create a huge amount of attention. For now, Jake has made his intentions clear. He wants Nate Diaz inside the cage, and he wants MVP to become a major force across both boxing and MMA.